Welcome to the Evansville Wartime Museum. So we're going to start today with prayer, and one of the things that we're going to highlight today is that Jim, our speaker, who lives north of Bloomington, he reported during the night there was a tornado that went through his area. There was destruction up there, so we're glad that Jim is here, and we're going to pray for him and all those around him. So all those who can stand, please rise. We offer our prayers to you, Lord. Prayers of thanksgiving and praise for you, for the wonderful creation that you have made. We give you thanks for the food that we've eaten and are about to eat. And thanks for those who helped make this a great event. We always pray for the Bronstein Foundation, for our volunteers who diligently work behind the scenes to make everything go. And we give great thanks today that Jim was able to join us. And we pray for those in Jim's area, those who are suffering from the damage from the tornado. And we also think about our nation's history, and tomorrow marks the anniversary of the Battle of the Philippine Sea. And your hand was at play for a great victory in that battle. And this brings to mind the great courage and the heroism that's been offered by our military, and we give great thanks to them. So as we conclude today, we ask for your strength to help us refocus, and each of us individually to think of the many blessings we have received and the gratitude that we offer. Amen. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing while Larry Head leads us in singing the national anthem.
Thank you, John. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Larry. Dr. Browning is going to join us here momentarily. He's got some announcements and introduction of our speaker.
Thank you very much, Gary. We're lucky to have Jim Canary to talk today, describe a little bit about him, but not a whole lot. He speaks for himself. But I'll talk a little bit about the Lilly Foundation, but a couple things we got coming up that I wanted you to know. Next week, or 2 weeks, we got another talk, and I'd like you to be here. What's the next talk there? Steve Salmon, and he's here somewhere if he didn't walk out. He cut out of Dodge. And this lady got him to come. Steve Salmon's dad gave his speech he's going to give for about 37 years in the school system over in Tell City. The speech was the Bataan March, which he was in. And we got done with the Bataan March. He was in a Japanese prison camp for only 3 or 4 years. So he's going to talk about those experiences. And then his mom was over near Auschwitz at the same time. And he's not going to talk about that. So if you want to ask things afterwards, he will be glad to talk to you about that. Just an amazing speaker. What's next after that one? Kathy Silva is the first graduating class of West Point, so it's very important you get the women out here. First graduate of a woman graduate at West Point. So this is over the last 50 years. She was in the 70s graduate. So all the academies take women now. We've got a lot of women in here. Bring some more women on that day because she is a very knowledgeable person and talks about the toughness and how difficult it was for a woman at that time because you were very minor percentage at that time in the 70s. The next one, Donna Bone may be replaced by somebody else. Bob Light, the head of pharmaceutical company here in Evansville. We got another pharmaceutical company talk today, but if not, she'll talk about highlights of World War II. We're very unique. We got these fly planes coming in. So if you want a list of when they're coming in, it's on the front desk here. And I think we'd love to have you. If you want to sponsor it, you can. First one's a Sky Train. That's a C-47. That's the exact plane that crashed here with all the U of E students in 1978 or 79. But it's a very good plane. It revolutionized air traffic. Air traffic in 1936 went up 600% that year because of this plane. It was a DC-3 or something like that, and it could take 19 customers. Prior to that, planes could only take about 10 customers, so the airline started making money. But it was used for dropping paratroopers in World War II. You can get a ride on that. Most cities never have these planes, okay? The next one is July 31st to August 2nd. Now that is called a B-29, okay? Now B-29, they made about 1,600 in World War II. There's only 2 left, Fifi and what's the other one? Doc. Okay, we got 2 flying, only 2 flying. So this is going to be here. You can get rides. If you want rides, you better go to their email now because they're going to sell out by the time they get here. So if you really want to ride there, they're not cheap. But it's a B-29. That's what dropped the atom bomb. That's the Enola Gray was the first one, Boxcar was the second, with 2 famous pilots. Now, most towns don't even have anything like this. I just talked to a guy in Seattle, and they haven't got the B-29 there a few years. The next one's going to be helicopters. You can get up in helicopters, same as during Vietnam. Love to have you. That's in August 8th or 9th. Then we're going to have Harold Morgan. Now, Harold Morgan, if you go over there, he's got 10 books over there. Harold Morgan was not a historian, but he helped us. He was very much a stimulus for us. So it's his day that day. We'll have a couple programs talk about how much he did for the history of Evansville during World War II. And that's about the end of me for, we've got some photo ops in next week. Now, just to talk about Lilly a little bit, and I'm not going to take all of Jim's, and he can correct me if I say some things wrong, but Lilly, that screen is because Lilly gave us a grant. Okay, we applied for the grant, but we got that screen. That's a beautiful screen. That's a Lilly grant. We've done several Lilly grants here, and we're going to do more. But just there, Eli Lilly Sr., born in the 1800s, started the pharmaceutical company. He had 3 kids, Eli Jr., Ruth, and Josiah, okay? And Josiah was really important in creating the Indiana Library. The Indiana Lilly Library is what Jim works for. Eli, the junior, spent a lot of time in philanthropy. The foundation was opened in 1937, called Lilly Foundation. 1937. Now this is 2027 about, so that's 90 years. It is the biggest foundation in the world by money. It's close to over 100 million. In 2022 it was 40 million. 40 million. They give 74% of their money back to Indiana. Give you an example. It said that doesn't affect you. They give a lot to Marion County, but they give stuff down to us. If you have a kid that's a senior in high school, you get a Lilly scholarship. It pays the whole way plus $900 a year or $900, whatever, a month or year or something for books. I don't know what it is. But anyway, go to Notre Dame and see how costly it is. That's probably 50 grand a year. For 4 years, that's 200 grand. And I don't even know the figures. But Lilly's done that since 1997. They've given, I think, over $5 million in that. And I can't tell you how lucky Indiana is. Bill Gates was the biggest foundation, Bill and Melinda, before they just passed, and Lilly passed up. Now look, it's because that fat drug, I'm not on it yet, but, you know, that thing, that Madeira or something, but that's because that drug, their stock went up so much. Because most of their stuff, and Jim can correct me, is in the Lilly Foundation's Lilly stock. Now nobody in their right mind would have all one stock. Well, they got a lot of their stock in that, and they had a home run. Most of the time, you get you lose all your money. Well, they have gone 40 million to 100 million since 22. Isn't that amazing? And most of that comes back to Indiana. So we are so lucky. So this is a Lilly product right here. 40 years working up there, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So if you let him get out of here without any questions, I'm gonna be mad. Okay? You don't want me mad. Okay, so I want you to ask some questions to him, okay? He's a fund of knowledge, and he had a friend named Ursay. He was Ursay's right-hand man for 20 or 30 years. And he'll talk about his collection that was just sold by the girls. But you've got a genius coming up here, and don't let him get away. Okay, Jim Canary.
Good morning or afternoon, whatever.
Can't hear you. Right to the mouth.
Okay, all right, there we go. Good morning or afternoon, I guess now. Great to see such a large crowd, and hopefully you will have questions. Last night we had a tornado and it kind of zapped my computer, so some of my slides are missing, which is, I think, a good thing. It means if you want to see the Gutenberg Bible, you need to come up to the Lilly Library. And if you want to see our miniature book collection, you need to come up to the Lilly Library. So we'll start and go through the slides that do remain. Here. All right. So this is J.K. Lilly Jr. with Herman B. Wells, who was our chancellor. Herman was an amazing man with a great vision. He thought of the center of campus should be the arts, an auditorium for the performing arts, and then the Lilly Library. So that's still kind of the heart of IU's campus in Bloomington. And the Lilly Library, they're breaking ground for the library, which was purpose-built in 1960 because J.K. Lilly gave us his rare book collection that time. Okay. Oh, like that? Like that? Technology is not my strong point.
You got it. You got it.
Oh, okay. So, yes, here you can see the Lilly Library, and it really is one of the world's great libraries. We have things that don't exist anywhere else. We have things that exist in places such as the British Library, the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, some of the major libraries in Europe and in Asia. Our collections are phenomenal. And it's to me, one of the sort of secret places in Indiana. And a great place, a great destination. I just drove down today, and with 69, it doesn't take you very long to get up there. Just a wonderful way to spend the day. And Mark had said that if there was a group from here that was interested, we'd be happy to organize a tour, and we can talk more about that. So, a lot of people call us the Eli Lilly Library. Well, there's Eli Lilly, was Colonel Eli Lilly there. His son is Josiah K. Lilly, who had sons Eli and J.K. So J.K. Lilly Jr. is the one that we have, whose library we received. He was an amazing collector of books. He also collected stamps, coins, toy soldiers, firearms, and automobiles. But we were fortunate to get the book collection, and then the library was specially built for it. That was late 50s, early 1960s. There's a picture in the foyer of J.K. Lilly Jr. When you walk into the library, you walk into a gallery, and this is the North Gallery right when you come in the entrance. And we had just had a major renovation. So we were built in 1960, and during COVID, Lilly Foundation gave us $12 million to do a serious renovation. And what that included was refurbishing everything down to the floor. The floor tiles had asbestos, so everything had to be removed. Every book, every bookshelf. We're talking 8.5 million manuscripts, 500,000 books, 30,000 puzzles. Just an incredible array of very fragile, very valuable items that had to be removed from the building, safely stored for 2 years while the work went on. And this is what it looks like now after the refurbishing. Walking from that gallery, you come into the South Gallery. It used to be called the Lincoln Room. We have a major collection of books on Abraham Lincoln as well. Those are what all the books are that are in the wall cases. We were able to get very good lighting in the galleries, LED lighting, so there's very little UV light, which is the most damaging in terms of fading items. So we can keep our light levels a little bit higher than normal and not risk damaging the pieces. We want to keep things preserved way beyond our time, you know, and it requires good environmental conditions and good restrictions on lighting. This is the ballroom. Oh, sorry. Go back here. This is the ballroom, named after Elizabeth Ball from the Ball Foundation, Muncie Ball canning jars. She also was a book collector. Her specialty collection was children's books. So we have a fabulous collection of children's books thanks to her. And this room is beautiful and houses some of her materials, and we have a small exhibition area in here where we can exhibit miniature books. This room is the Ellison Room, and it is based on a collection by a man named Ellison who collected books about westward expansion. So we've got Gold Rush, we've got cowboys, we've got trains, we've got all of the different explorers and traders that went and moved from east to west. And it's quite an amazing collection. So what you're probably beginning to put together is that the Lilly Library is a collection of collections. Mr. Lilly's gift was sort of the foundation, and then people thought, well, I would like to have my materials here. And so we keep getting things, constantly getting new collections, either by purchasing them or by gifts. We've had some fabulous gifts of collections over the years. This is the Slocum Room, and the reason it's called that is there's a collector of puzzles. Jerry Slocum had a puzzle museum in his backyard in Beverly Hills, and he had 30,000 puzzles that he collected, traveling all around the world collecting puzzles. He himself was an aeronautical engineer and was fascinated by puzzles and traveled around the country trying to find a good, suitable home for his collection where they would be appreciated. Well, initially there was some resistance. We're a rare book library. What in the world are we doing taking in 30,000 puzzles? But we also teach cognitive sciences, and we have a school of education, and it's been a very popular collection, gets a lot of use. We also have some puzzles that are just out all the time, so kids, when they come in, can play with them and take them apart and have an interesting experience while their parents are looking at some of the other things. I'll talk a little bit about some of our treasures, some of the things, the high points, I guess you would say. Everyone thinks that a rare book library is going to be just old books, but we also have very interesting collections of current materials. For example, we have all of the archives of Kurt Vonnegut, Indiana writer. We did one exhibition on writers as artists. Kurt Vonnegut was also an artist, and so we have his artwork. We have Sylvia Plath's archives, and we also have all of her artwork from her very first card that she sent home from camp when she was a young girl, all the way up to the time that she went, until she went to Smith for her college. So the building is a little deceptive. When you walk in on the doors here, you'll be on the 3rd floor. There are 7 floors in the building. And we've outgrown this building long ago. So we built an auxiliary storage facility that's it's kind of like this. It's industrial high-density storage. So the ceilings are about almost 50 feet tall. The books are put in there by size. Everything's sized, and then special shelving for them. So you don't have tall books and some short books. You can get really a lot more books per cubic foot. And so those are, when we need to get them, they can be brought back to the Lilly within 24 hours and serviced in our reading room. We have a wonderful reading room. If you look online on our website, if there are things that you want to see, you can come up there and they'll bring them and put them right in front of you, and you can handle them. It's not like a museum where you have to look at everything through the cases. These are actually to be used. Research is still being done on this material. You don't need letters of recommendation. All you need is a valid ID, and you can come in and access almost everything in the collection. This would have been the Gutenberg Bible, but as I said, the tornado really messed with my computer last night, and I tried to install it again this morning at 5 o'clock and nothing. I brought a hard drive that had another Gutenberg Bible. It's disappeared too, so I don't know how that worked, but again, you'll have to come up and see it. This is another collection, one of my favorites actually. Ian Fleming, the one who wrote all the James Bond novels, he decided he wanted to collect the first time anything important appeared in print. So, for example, he's got the first pamphlet when Einstein came up with his theory of relativity. He's got the first book on billiards. He's got the first Boy Scout manual, the first book of Alexander Graham Bell explaining the telephone, things of that sort. First time anything. Karl Marx's book on Das Kapital, the first time in ideas, social things, scientific things, literary things. And his library was completely white, and all of his books were in black boxes. And depending on what the subject area was, it would have a different color label on the black box. It's really striking, beautifully done. But we have all of the original manuscripts, typescripts, for the Bond novels. This one's my favorite. And this is what I love about a rare book library, is you can see things, you can see the thought processes. We don't, nowadays, you type something, you don't like it, you just delete it on the computer, and people don't see how you're thinking and editing sometimes. But this is the typescript for Goldfinger. And you can see he typed Goldfinger, and then he changed his mind, changed the title to The Richest Man in the World. Not good. Anybody that's seen the movie and heard the soundtrack, Goldfinger. So he later wrote back, changed his mind again, and wrote Goldfinger in by hand. And I just love that. So when you're looking at this and reading it, you can turn, and after this first few type pages, you can see all its corrections. But then he'll have handwritten pages that are stuck in, 2 or 3 pages of where he just went off and changed the story. And you can see all of that. You can, when you're in the reading room and just focusing on that, you're in his world, you're in his mind. It's wonderful. Another thing with modern manuscripts, we have a lot of diaries. Diaries of people who have traveled, diaries from people who were in prisoners of war in different prison camps at different times. And again, when you start reading that, the whole world goes away and you're right there with them. They're very personal. I did one for the first soldier in our area who was killed in World War I, and it was so moving. In your diary, he wrote in every single day, and then it was blank. The days stopped, and tucked inside when I started to do the repairs, I found a note that his partner had written to his father, telling him what a wonderful man to serve with, and that he had such great respect for him. And so I repaired that letter, and then repaired this little journal, and then gave it back. So it's at our VFW post in Bloomington. But they have a certain power to them. They have a certain presence, these manuscripts and books. This is, we have a large collection of what you would expect to find in a rare book library, and that would be medieval manuscripts. This is a 15th century rule book of rules for nuns, Dominican nuns, and some wonderful illustrations of them. Sometimes pictures of them working in the garden and doing different daily things that they would do at the convent. This came from Nuremberg, Germany. We have a first edition of Chaucer's Canary Tales, which was printed in 1476 in England. And if you notice back, think back to the previous slide, that was all written by hand. This is type that was cast in England. And you can see the type was initially cast to resemble the work of a scribe. I mean, it looks very much like that earlier calligraphy. And so the fonts developed in different areas, different times. But this is around 1476. Famous printer in England, Caxton, William Caxton. This is another of my favorites that I just found. It was in a binding that was very tight, much later binding. It was made by a pretty famous binder in Paris. This is Albert Durer's Apocalypse, and it was 1498. Woodcuts. These are all woodcuts. And the problem with it was the left side here, the margin, the gutter part of the book, they had bound it too tight, and so every time you turn a page, it was beginning to crack there. So I wanted to release it from that pressure so these prints would not get damaged. Each one would start to break off further and further into the print area. So when we had it apart, it was a great opportunity to have an exhibition of Albert Dürer. Right across the street from our library is the art museum, and they have some Dürer prints as well. But this way we could see the entire vision of the apocalypse, 15 of these woodcuts framed side by side, whereas in a book, you're limited to just one spread at a time. So it was quite a moving exhibit. We did that during COVID. Kind of strange to do an apocalypse during COVID, but sometimes it felt like that. So I'm really hesitant to rebind this, and if I don't get it done before I retire, then it'll get passed on to the next person. But I like the idea that if we want to be able to see them, they're free and can be opened and looked at. On the backs of the prints are text, so it's the 15 woodcuts and a printed text that goes with them. We've got them digitized now, so you can go on our website, search Dürer Apocalypse, and you can see the whole thing, read it if you like. What? I'm sorry. Scale?
What's the whole, that was scale, that's what that is, okay.
Oh, I think so, yeah. Yeah, it's scales. I don't know what he's doing quite with it. It is a scale. And this is a image of our Audubon. There's another one. And this is when we decided we wanted to digitize it. Again, you can have it open to one bird. There were over 400 birds that Audubon did, and you can go down and visit the park just across the river there. I think they even have one of the copper plates there, if I'm not mistaken. But Audubon had these birds. Some of them he killed, and some he got from another gentleman, and pinned them out in as natural state as possible, and then he painted them. Then the paintings were shared with engravers in Edinburgh, Scotland. That didn't go so well, so it was finished in London, and he sold these by subscription, because it took an enormous amount of time. It took like over 10 years to do all of these birds, which to me, I can't believe. That doesn't seem long to me, but he doesn't have television or phone or any of the other distractions, right? So anyway, we've digitized them. It's wonderful. It was great to see them with good lighting and to see the detail in the glazes that are put on over some of these hand-colored plates. We used to keep one open all the time, and we would flip the bird once a week, and then that would be on our social media. And right now we have the Declaration of Independence in there, and the bird books are put away. The bus driver would come, the campus bus driver would come, park the bus out in front, tell the people he'd be right back. He'd come in to see the bird of the week, which was really good. If we turned one page a week, it would take us 8.5 years to go through the entire book. And they're huge. These are called double elephant folios, so they are very nice. We have a set. Mr. Lilly was offered a set. It's 4 volumes, all 4. And I think around 10 million last time, yeah. He was offered a set, and he turned it down because he said, what am I going to do with these? What kind of bookshelf? The only place I can think to put them would be under my billiard table, and that doesn't seem right. So then they found another set for him in a beautiful mahogany cabinet, and the drawers pulled out for each volume, and he bought that. So Mr. Lilly was a real stickler for condition. He would turn things down if they weren't just the best copy that he'd ever seen. And so we were really fortunate. We try to do the same when we're purchasing things, just to honor his eye, his collector's eye, and do the best we can to get the most perfect copies. Yeah.
Repeat the question, please.
Yeah,
Jim, you can repeat the question. Walk up there and give your question. Eric, get up there and talk.
Thank you. No, anyone that has not been to the Audubon Museum in Henderson, they have that whole collection over there, and it is awesome. It is well worth the trip to go over and see that. Beautiful history behind Audubon. He was a wonderful person. And we won't go into the details on how he got the birds to do his paintings, but the last thing I read was he actually shot. He killed each bird, and following that, he would eat the bird. So he didn't put it to waste. It's hard to say. A hummingbird, I don't know.
He also tried to paint the birds as close to life size as possible. And he sold it, like I said, by subscription. So you would order, and you'd get, I think, maybe like a group of 5. It'd be like 1 large bird, 2 mediums, and a small bird. He had a different way of presenting them as a group. And those plates, he was very poor at the end. He just, a costly process to do these. And so his wife was trying to keep going, and so they all these copper plates were sent to a place to be melted down just for the money of the metal. And I think the son of the person who was melting them down saw them and pulled out as many as he could get out of the furnace before they were destroyed. So we do have some of these incredibly beautifully engraved plates still.
And what's there, that's the elephant folio, and that's why he used that large size, because those birds are painted in true life size.
He also did then another set of these in octavo, and we have that as well, which would be, they're just books about this tall, really beautiful. His son also did another set called the Bean edition, and they are chromolithographs. Not anything near as nice or detailed as this, but still continuing to do birds. There's another one that you can see kind of how large they are. It's interesting, there's a place up in Indianapolis right across from the Colts complex on 56th Street. It's called Eagle Creek. It's a nature preserve. J.K. Lilly had a building built out there for his library. So it was kind of a little country estate. He had his home at Newfields at the Art Museum. He had another house not too far from there. But he built this place to go out and have kind of a retreat for his library and to do his work out there with his books. And now that he gave the collection to the Lilly of his books, he thought, well, I should do something for Purdue. So he gave that land to Purdue, which was by that time 4,000 acres, and they'd planted so many trees. It was just a beautiful place. Purdue didn't do anything with it. He thought it would be great for their forestry program, but it was just too far from Lafayette. So they sold it to the city of Indianapolis, who then turned it into this park. And it's definitely worth going. There's so many birds there. It's incredible. Oh, okay. So this kind of brings us up to the present day. Because it's our 250th anniversary of our country, we have a major exhibit up now, the Declaration of Independence. Right, as soon as you walk in, the first case is the Dunlap broadside, which was printed in Philadelphia on July 4th, 1776. It's not signed by all the signers. We've got John Hancock's name on there and his secretary, and John Dunlap, the printer's name. They're not signed, they're just printed. It wasn't until August that the signers all signed the Declaration. And that's in the National Archives in D.C. But there was a facsimile made off of it later called the stone facsimile, and it's on parchment or vellum. It's an animal skin, and we have a copy of that as well. And it'll be, I just framed it last week, so it's going to be going in the exhibit in July, end of July. And at that time, we're going to add, we have examples of all the signatures of the signers on different letters or on different papers that they've signed. So that'll be part of the continuing exhibit, which will be up until January. So again, I hope some of you can make it up there for that. We will be closed on the 4th of July. Our hours are 9 to 5:30. Saturdays we're open from 9 until, I think 9 or 9:30 until 4, the gallery spaces. And if you want to make an appointment to see a particular book, you need to make an appointment with the reading room about 2 weeks ahead of time. And then the book will be waiting for you to look at. Oh, okay. One of the things that I've loved about working at the library for 41 years is the other opportunities that have come from just by being there. And this is a picture of Jim Irsay, who passed away last year, unfortunately. But he bought Jack Kerouac's original manuscript of On the Road, paid $2.43 million for it. And that was kind of the beginning of his collecting. And he called Christie's after he bought it and said, how do I take care of this thing? What do I do with it? Is there somebody out there that you could recommend? And thank God, Christie's said, well, one of the best rare book libraries is an hour south of you. Why don't you call the Lilly Library? So we went up there, and I was never a sports guy. I had never been to a football game in my life. So it was interesting, that first meeting. But if you can look at Jim, you can tell he's not your typical NFL owner either. And he started collecting musical instruments, guitars primarily, and he collected lyrics of very famous songs. He's got Beatles' Penny Lane. He's got Bob Dylan's The Times They Are Changing, handwritten things of that sort. Elton John's big piano, Ringo Starr's drum set from the Ed Sullivan Show that we all remember. And so he just went hardcore focus on building this pop culture collection with also a lot of Americana, important things from our history. And we got to be really close in that I was the only person he'd let touch and handle the scroll. So I took it all over the world. He wanted it to be shared. He didn't want to have an object that he just hid in a safe, you know. He wanted people to experience it. It was really moving for him, and he wanted to share that experience, that inspiration. And many of the things that he bought, he's got, he had the championship belt from Muhammad Ali. He had Rocky's shoes and the script from Rocky, things that inspire. And I think that, you know, with his sports, that was the kind of thing that inspired the team, but also just in general. Some of these musical instruments were people who had really made big changes in the world through their music. As I said, he was then started to go on the road. He formed his own band, and we would go travel around the country and set up a museum that would be set up one day. The band would play that evening, then we would take everything down, get it back on a truck. So 25-hour days. I mean, it was incredible. But you couldn't, the stuff was so valuable, you couldn't leave it at a venue. It had to get packed up in the yard. Chipper would take it on to the next place. It was a fabulous experience. We worked together for about over 20 years. He bought the scroll in 2001. That's the Jack Kerouac scroll. It's 120 feet long. The end is missing, the last 5 pages of the novel, chewed up by a dog. And the new person that bought it, I told him I want to come and take samples of the end of the scroll. Not physical samples, but you can take an eraser and erase that surface, and that can be sent and analyzed for DNA. I want to see if there's any dog DNA there, or Jack didn't like the ending and wanted to change it. So we're going to try to do that. I'm going to meet him in October and see if we can get that done. The reason the scroll is because Jack could type over 100 words a minute. And he loved these long riffs like Charlie Parker, jazz riffs. He loved the road. He hitchhiked across the country several times. And he just loved that go, 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 go. He didn't want to stop, put another sheet in, break his thought. He just went. So he thought, how can I do this? And so he found a roll of tracing paper, cut it into widths that would fit in the typewriter, and taped them together. So it's quite unique. It's really an artist's book in a way. And there's no punctuation or paragraphs, so it's very dizzying to try to read it. I mean, it really is. Unfortunately, when Jim passed away, his daughters were not so interested in the collection, so it went to auction at Christie's. And I went with my son And it was really quite an experience to, one, witness an auction of this high caliber material. And I brought the catalog so you can have a look at it over there. But the scroll he paid $2.43 million for, and it sold for $10 million. Another scroll he bought for, I think, $150,000, and it sold for several million. And the one person that bought both of those, and also 5 Kerouac letters that Jim owned, was a country singer, Zach Bryan. I don't know if you know that name. I didn't at the time, really, but he bought them. And he also gave $3 million to buy a church in Lowell, Massachusetts, where Kerouac lived. Kerouac's brother's funeral was there. Kerouac was an altar boy there. Kerouac's funeral was there. And it's in a neighborhood that's kind of going down. And the thought is that with this art and cultural center there and a Kerouac museum, it could really bring a lot of energy into the community in that area. And so that's Zach's plan, is to give these back to Lowell to be exhibited, and it will draw tremendous people there and resources. This is one of Jim's other major purchases early on. This is a guitar named Tiger, and it belonged to Jerry Garcia, one of the founding members of the Grateful Dead. And it's iconic. And when it went for auction, there were a group of people there sitting in front of us, one of which was Derek Trucks. I don't know if you know, from the Allman Brothers, the Tedeschi Trucks band. Anyway, very, very good musician. He was with another 2 guys, and the guy was bidding and just bidding and bidding and bidding, and it went for $10 million. And I know Jim paid less than $1 million for it. So, I mean, I'm sure people around him at the time were like, "Oh my God, what are you doing, spending all this money?" But he was really smart. He bought these things at the right time, and they increased in value. There's never going to be another one. And so they really were a great investment. His daughters said that when they get the funds from the auction, they're going to, a lot of it will go to charity. They have an issue there that's very near and dear to their heart, and that is kicking the stigma of mental illness and addiction primarily. That it's just done so much damage to our country, and they are supporting efforts to address and deal with those problems. So I think that's a very good cause. Jim had his struggles with that, and so to continue on that part of his legacy, I think is a great thing to do with these things and get them passed on. Someone else can enjoy it. This is a guitar just referred to as the Black Strat. David Gilmour from the Pink Floyd, he sold this. He sold 84 guitars at an auction, and then he took the money from that auction and used it for issues dealing with climate change. And again, I love to see this, if an object's going to go, that the proceeds are going to worthy causes. And so Jim bought it. I think he paid $3 million for this guitar. At the time, it was just an exorbitant amount of money, highest price ever paid for a guitar. But we watched it go for $13 million. It just blew my mind. So I'm just going to end with a couple things, news items that came up last night and this morning. This was in the Indianapolis Star, that Jim's copy of the Declaration of Independence is going to go for auction. And this is like the one I just framed for the Lilly exhibit, and they're expecting it to bring $2 to $3 million. And this is something that was very, very near and dear to Jim. This is the original working manuscript of the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book with the 12 steps, and it's all, as you can see, it's all written in with different colors of ink. The guys are sitting there and they're putting it together, discussing what it should be, how it should work. And so this he also paid around $2.5 million for. And he'd been letting it be exhibited at an AA center in Indianapolis. But it's also going to be sold, I just found out, so it'll be sold next month. And really curious what it will bring and where it will go. I hope it goes somewhere where, again, it can reach people who it's important that they see it. It is so powerful. When I've had this an exhibit, I've seen people come up, stand around it, holding hands, and you can just feel that, you know, it saved their lives essentially, and they have friends who it didn't save their lives. So it's very powerful, very personal, and I think it'd be a shame for something like this to go to someone who would just lock it up in the safe and have it that way. So my wishes and dreams are that someone else like Jim will buy it and get it back out where it needs to be. So anyway, that's it. Oh, hang on. So yeah, I am retiring in March, and what got me started at Lilly and interested in Lilly and working on paper and books was studying Tibetan language. And I discovered then very early on that paper, ink, printing, calligraphy, all these things started in the East, China, and moved on the Silk Road. These ideas were transmitted to the West. And my Tibetan studies and studies in Central Asia just got me so interested in the physicality, the material aspects of the book. What was the paper made of? Who were the people making these things? And how did they do that in service of their monasteries? What was it in their cultural milieu? So the first time when I was in Lilly, I found that we had a Tibetan manuscript. This is it. And so when I retire in March, I'm going to return to my Tibetan studies and travel much more in Asia. And I work on preservation projects in Tibet, in Nepal, and we'll continue to do that work and visit other collections and help other people with their preservation issues. So, again, welcome to come up and visit. I'm happy to give you a tour, give you some advice on things you might want to see. If you have a subject area in general, I can point you in the direction of some things, and I'd love to see you up there. Thank you. Now, questions? Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
Up here.
Oh.
What is your favorite thing in the library?
What is your favorite thing in the library by Stephanie Pitcher?
I would say the Birds of America. If there was a fire and I had to try to grab something, I don't know if I could even carry it out, but that would be the one that really, I just love it.
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
Number one, the Ian Fleming collection, does Lilly have that now? All those things?
All of them. We have every novel, even one he never published. We have an unpublished novel.
But I mean the stuff like Einstein's first thing.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We
You
have
have all
we
of
have we have his library as well as his bond collection.
Excellent. And lastly, the girls are selling all this stuff in the Ursay collection and giving it to charity. Was there anybody that ever tried to talk to them about setting up their own museum in Indianapolis and keeping that stuff? Because that would have been a huge tourist. The auction's gone on forever.
Yes, it has. Yeah, I think that was Jim's initial idea, because he asked me once what I thought it would take, how much money it would take to establish a museum. And that's why we were doing these pop-up exhibits, to kind of feel out interest in different areas and see people's reactions. And I think he was just kind of thinking about that, contemplating that, and then see what was going to come. He was thinking like some kind of public-private collaboration, some sort. I mean, there's a museum of the Mopop in Seattle, Pop Culture Museum there, and it's very popular. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. It could have been a great museum. It would have been wonderful down near the stadium. It would have been fantastic for Indiana. Yeah.
I'm just a little curious. I'm curious about the Lilly family, their heritage before their success in the drug business.
I have a book here that I brought just in case you were interested. This is a wonderful book. It's called 3 Generations of the Lilly Family in Indiana. It's like a $24 book. It's an amazing book. And they deal with the different things that the different Lillys were interested in. Eli was interested in collecting early Chinese antiques, pottery, scrolls, things of that sort as well. And there's an article by my director on Lilly's book collection and how he collected what he was looking at. And so it's a wonderful book. Feel free to look at it and take a note if you want to try to get a copy. Your library may have it.
Heritage, back before that is what she's talking about.
Eli came from, I can't remember if it was Maryland or Pennsylvania. He came from the East, and he got interested at a very young age as in being a druggist, working like a kid in a drugstore. Was fascinated by it, and then went on and studied, and then started his own. He then went to the Civil War, and was did a lot in the Civil War. But yeah, that'll all be in this book, and you can see their history and how they came to Indiana and what they've done since they've been here. Again, we mentioned the philanthropy, unbelievable, the gifts, and we have been endowed by them with a curator of religion. Because we've got a lot, Bibles, so many religious texts. We have Qurans, we have Bibles, we have Buddhist texts, and they endowed that position. They just came back then and endowed a cataloging specialist in religious studies to help get some of our collections are kind of unknown collections. They want to get them more visible and that more people know about them. So they funded that position recently. And Angel Mounds, yeah. No, it just keeps going. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. A couple of weeks ago, we had a presentation on the Holocaust art. Do you have a Holocaust, anything in that museum section, or any art from the Holocaust?
I don't think that we really do. We might have some manuscript material, some letters and things of that. But if there's any art, it would probably be across the street in the art museum. They may have some things. So that's something, if you're interested in knowing, I can look into it when I get back and keep in touch.
If you look at the...
Did you get my card? Okay, I'll give it.
If you look at the speaker list, there's a gentleman named Rubenstein that's going to talk here. He's been a professor at IU for, I think, 45 years, and he'd be the one to ask. He has taught at IU, and he helps with their Jewish studies up there, and he's very renowned, and if he follows through, I think you'll see him on the list.
Can you explain how they managed to acquire the Gutenberg Bible?
I'm sorry, how they what?
How they managed to acquire a Gutenberg Bible?
Well, he got that from one of the book dealers that he dealt with, and if you want to learn more about that, there's another wonderful book. This is David Randall, who was a first Lilly librarian, who was also a bookseller at Scribner's. And he writes about some of Lilly's major acquisitions in this book. So if you want to take a note of this, you can probably find it at the library. And but the Gutenberg, our copy is only the New Testament, and it's on paper, it's not on skin, and it's not illuminated very heavily. It's got rubrication, so some of the letters are done with blue and red and green inks, but Some of them are very elaborate and have illuminations in gold and in the margins and are actually on skin. But, ours is not, but it's still pretty special to have in Indiana. We have people come and sometimes ask to see our Guggenheim Bibles. Yeah.
What would you say is your rarest piece or collection? What is your oldest piece in collection? And what is your most valuable piece or collection?
That's a little bit more curatorial question. I'm a conservator. I work mostly on the repairs and that. But our oldest printed piece is a Japanese piece from 770, and it's printed in this shape. That shape is often comes from, in India, their manuscripts were on palm leaves, which were long and thin like that. It's also that shape too because there were pagodas, little like a, I don't know, and the top came off, and this was rolled up and put inside. Supposedly there were 1 million of these made, and it was to commemorate a battle success, and they were placed in monasteries all throughout Japan. And ours is in such great condition. I've seen them at other institutions. Harvard's isn't anywhere near as nice as ours. And we even loaned ours to Japan for an exhibition at one point. So that's one of my favorites in terms of early printing. We also have early printing from Korea, movable type. Everybody always says Gutenberg was the first to develop movable type, individual letters that could be used and reused. It happened in Korea 100 years before, and we have a very rare copy of a Korean book printed in movable type. Our oldest things are not books, but we have cuneiform tablets that are quite old, and we have a Roman tombstone from the 2nd century. You know, our capital letters come from Rome, Roman caps, it's called, and we have an engraved, chiseled tombstone. Yeah, I think the Birds of America is one of our most valuable. I think the last one I can remember was like $10 million that sold for. I worked 2 years ago on a book that Mr. Lilly owned. It was given by George Washington to Thomas Jefferson. It was the first printing of the Bill of Rights, and that was about a $5 million book. So they go up, they get pricey pretty quick, you know, when you get into that, with that kind of one with the age and the provenance and the, you know, all the connections around it, that kind of a book. Yeah.
How do you sleep at night? And for 40 years you've been doing this. Can you tell us about nostalgia and how much nostalgia you have had from a life of 40 years of seeing things that probably as a kid you didn't know anything about it, and how much you learned in this job?
I really like sleep, but don't get enough. And I heard when you get older you need less sleep. I don't believe that for a minute. No, it's been the greatest thing ever. I did an individualized major program. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew there were some professors that I really admired, and there were things that I really wanted to learn, but I didn't have a plan. This is going to be what I be when I grow up. In fact, I didn't really think I wanted to grow up very much. I don't think I have either. But I've had a really great life with fabulous teachers. My Tibetan teacher was the Dalai Lama's elder brother. So I learned so much about Tibetan culture from him, and just teachers who taught in the old way, like in Europe. You go to their house. I had my other Tibetan teacher. We'd go in the morning and we'd have coffee or tea, and we'd work all morning long translating stuff, and he'd have a pile of books with papers stuck in them, they'd open and we'd look at and reference. Then we'd go in and have lunch. Then we'd come back and do some more work, and I often didn't leave until 10 at night, and I was the only student. I was an undergrad, and this is what I was doing. And it was so different from my student friends who were in an auditorium with 200 people, you know. I said, how was class? Oh, I sat in back, I left early, blah, blah, blah. No, that was not the way my classes were. And so I'm just so grateful for the way it all turned out. And it's been a wonderful life to work there for 40 years. It's going to be really hard to leave, but there's other things that I want to do too, so days are too short.
Can you speak about Tibetan manuscripts? Were they wood blocks at one time, and how made in the 1400s, and then they moved to what type of print, And you showed us some of those, but those didn't like wood blocks. Did they do that to preserve them, or am I wrong?
They did, the manuscripts were all written by hand. That's Manu's hand script. But then, like we did, to get them distributed, they started carving them on wood blocks. They would take a manuscript and paste it on the wood block. And then they would rub the paper off, the ink would stay on, then they'd carve it, and then that would they'd ink it up and print it, and they could then make multiple copies. We did that in the West as well. Early books were done woodcut, so we learned it from the East. And it's still being done today. There's still carvers. I visited almost all the printing houses in Tibet, and they're still carrying on. One thing very interesting in China, I saw there's things called CNC router, and so you could put a text on the computer and send that to the router, and it will engrave the woodblock. Amazing. And then they're still printing them by hand, you know. So so many were destroyed during the Cultural Revolution when the Chinese communists came into Tibet. They just sacked monasteries, burned texts, burned woodblocks, destroyed statues and paintings, and so they're trying to be able to recreate these things. A lot of things have been scanned and digitized now. There's databases of like 84,000 texts, and I can just go online now, find the text, print it out. There's print-on-demand text that will print them out in the proper format to look like a Tibetan book. So there's old and new technologies kind of melding together. It's quite interesting.
You're Mr. Bookman, but you mentioned Korea and you mentioned Japanese printing, but and the Gutenberg press. But what about 300, 400 AD with the Chinese? Didn't the Chinese? They maybe didn't have a repeating printing, but didn't they create printing at that time of some kind? Can you speak about that?
Yeah, the Chinese characters, there's so many of them that to carve them individually was not really a very great idea. But they could carve wood blocks, and so they would carve a block. And the paper they used was very thin, so you could only print on one side. So they would print on that one side, and they would fold it so the foredge or the front, this portion, is a fold. And then they would stab sew it here in the back. And because of the quality of the paper, it would drape and it would work fine. If we tried to do a book like that, stab it in the back with our heavier paper, it's just really unpleasant. It doesn't have any like that, you know. So because of the materials and because of the technologies of printing, books developed in different ways in different places. And the Chinese books are still being produced in that way with wood blocks. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, I can't thank Jim Canary and give him an applause. Thank you.